You know how some people just stereotype others? They're like, oh my gosh, like this dude right here is Malay. He must surely have only Malay friends. Or, oh, he is Indian. He must be drunk. Or, oh, this person is Chinese. What? Are you going to... The thing that you learn as you grow older is that stereotypes can be wrong. But that's great though, because it showcases to you honestly that the world is a lot more diverse, interesting, and in many cases, talented than you might even think. That's one of the things I'm going to showcase right here and right now, and let's go. Maybe could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Asif?
I was raised in Subang Jaya. I was in a Chinese school for primary.
Whoa!
It's Chiwen or Ziwen.
Chiwen?
Chiwen in Year 1.
Okay,
I spent 6 years there. I almost cried myself to sleep every night.
Because of Chinese school?
Yeah, I mean, I was the only child I was the youngest boy in the family. I was the only child that was sent to a Chinese school because at the time it was because of my family circumstances. My dad was potentially going to China, so it's like, why not just let him a bit of Chinese, a bit of this.
I see. But you're from a Malay family, right?
Yeah, I am from a Malay family.
I see, okay.
But that didn't work out, so I just stayed there. So my parents were like, you know what, since China is growing, might as well. And then I went to KL for a bit, 2 years.
Yes.
And then I changed to a Catholic school, St. Joseph's, to pursue my IGCSEs. And then afterwards, I was at Alice Smith to do my A-levels.
Wow, okay. I see.
Then I applied to universities and I chose Brown.
Wow,
Yeah.
incredible. Wait, so if you were at Alice Smith, does that mean that you were like...
Yeah, I was classmates with Gayan, of course.
Oh!
Schoolmates.
Schoolmates.
We never in
okay.
the same class.
Got it, okay. Wow, that's like a very unique background that you got right there. Like, going to a Chinese school, like, you know, even as a Malay student, like, I mean, I've had a couple of classmates who were Malay when I went to SJKC Damansara, so like, I was also Chinese school educated. So for those of you out there who are thinking, oh, I went to a Chinese school, I can't apply to a top university, that is a lie that you're telling yourself. Don't lie to yourself. In Chinese, we say, 你可以欺骗人家，可是你千万不要欺骗自己.
Don't lie to yourself.
Exactly. All right, cool. All right, maybe can you share a little bit about, I guess, like your experience of like being in that environment? Like, what was it like for you?
Well, of course, like from kindergarten to primary school, you don't think much about it. You just obey.
Yeah.
Right? You don't question about this because you're just a kid, very innocent.
Yeah.
But when I first got there, the first day of Chinese school was, of course, I don't know what the heck was I was listening to. It was gibberish. It was like an alien language, right? Like,
Alien language, yeah.
Like in my household, I speak my mother tongue and also English, and suddenly there's a new language popping up. So, well, when I went there, I was like a bit alienated. You know, I was like, there's only a couple of people my skin in this school, and the way they do things is different. It's very, I wouldn't say militant, but I would say really disciplined.
It probably is kind of militant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Chinese school.
I was kind of used to it, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like growth development, you know?
Growth development, yeah.
Like, you struggle for a bit, you cry for 3-4 days, but you pick yourself up eventually,
Yeah.
right? And when you start making friends, I think one of the breakthroughs of being able to survive in Chinese school is actually making friends.
Amazing, yeah, for
If
sure.
you don't have the ability to make friends, that might be a problem because socializing is one of the most important factors of you trying to
Like
blend
thrive
into
in any society, right?
to adapt into a new society, and that's where I learned most of my Chinese actually.
Amazing,
from my
yeah.
friends. And then of course I'll do my own work at home, you know, like the writings, the pinyin, the strokes and stuff. And when I was standard 3, I remember I had like the best achievement. I told my dad, I was like, I was ranked 10th out of the whole school, and he was like, wow. Yeah, and then I was
Yeah,
like,
it's like insane.
yeah, and then
Props, man.
he was like, wow, good job. He was like jumping up and down. And then I was appointed to be prefect. That was also one of the highlights in my Chinese school. But I also did a lot of like sports. Right?
see.
That's also one of my breakthroughs, like in terms of like socially integrating into the society.
Yeah. Can you maybe share a little bit more about how later on, well, life was for you when you made that transition in the opposite direction? Because like you did say that you went off to like international school, right? So like, what was it like transitioning then from a Chinese school over to like an international school?
Yeah, that's also a challenge because you're branching out to a different avenue, a different tribe, different area. But that's also like international school is English now. You have to be master of English. I already mastered Chinese. I have to master English. My English was
Once you conquer one front, then you have to conquer yet another front.
Definitely I was insecure about my English. You know, I was insecure in Chinese when I was in high school, but I was kind of insecure about my English because most of them who already in the international school, chances are most of them are already attended that same school in primary. So they really have a very good foundation in English.
I feel that actually leads us to an inspirational note though, because like even if you're insecure, it doesn't mean that you cannot be great.
Yeah, definitely. Like insecurity is the first step of being great. I feel like
insecurity is the first step to being great. Wow.
Being like insecurity is
you heard that?
It's the first step of being a master of that particular
a master of anything.
Yeah, master of anything.
So to those of you out there, you heard that if you are feeling insecure, so that is actually the first step to your dreams. Like you shouldn't let it stop your dreams because that is the beginning, the trial by fire that every single person goes through. All right. Well, I do want to ask a little bit, like considering that you are going to an Ivy League school, like it looks like you have thrived in like various environments. Like you've probably done like very well academically. Would you maybe share a little bit about like your academic like results, like what eventually, like you take the SAT?
I didn't take the SAT, and there was a reason for that. I will come back later. So in IGCSEs, I took 10 subjects, including Chinese, of course. But I took Chinese as a second language because I was like, I could invest my time doing advanced Chinese externally, which is a good thing called a HSK.
Wow, okay.
So I did GCSEs, I got 90 stars and 1A.
Wow.
And then
insane, okay.
A-levels, the results is coming out in 2 weeks. So hopefully that's going to go well. Coming back to the external thing, the HSK. So instead of taking SATs at the time, it was right before application season started. So I was like, if I invested my time doing SAT, I'm going to burn out 3 months of my life just doing SAT. But I thought, hey, what other things I could do? I could do HSK 6, which is, HSK has 6 levels. 1 to 6, 6 being the highest level, collegiate level. And I could do some courses regarding my passion, like my brand that I've put out to unis, like US-China relations.
Right.
So I did a Wharton summer program. I got, I think, a 4.0 GPA there. And then HSK 6 I passed.
Congratulations.
That's also some. That's about it about like stats wise. In terms of, I don't know about any other standardized tests that I took.
That's alright. No.
I also one funny thing in GCSEs, I took foreign language Malay, because there's no other. It's a compulsory thing that I have to do.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I got 100, like, and that's apparently top in the world in Malaysia. Top of the world looking. And when I told my parents that, they were like laughing because
I'm laughing too.
It was like, it was such a laughing stock. Because there's nothing to be proud about. I was like, I know. I'm just pointing it out.
All right, so maybe let's move on to, I guess, a discussion of like Brown University in particular. So like, can I ask what led you, I guess, towards Brown University? Like, what was it that appealed to you about that education? I mean, like, I guess most people know that it's like one of the Ivy Leagues, you know, like Harvard, Princeton, and then like Dartmouth, Brown, Columbia, Penn, and then Cornell. Can you tell us a little bit about Brown and like why that appealed to you?
So in the application cycle, I applied to total 22 US universities and 5 UK.
Whoa!
I got into 20 of them. So I have UCLA, USC, UMich Ann Arbor, UNC Chapel Hill, Wesleyan, NYU Shanghai, Duke Kunshan, Brown of course. UK, I remember LSE, Warwick, Manchester, Bath, Leeds. And that's some of the top of my head. I kind of like narrowed it down to UCLA and Brown.
UCLA and Brown.
UCLA it's a public school versus Brown is a private school, private institution, which means that, hey, and UCLA has a big student populace. And it means that searching for courses, taking classes would be like Hunger Games, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Definitely, Hunger Games, right?
Hunger Games,
Right.
100%.
And, the dorm rooms are, I wouldn't say they don't care about the students, but it's public, so there's not a lot of leeway for you to, ask for a single or something. So I feel like Brown, especially with the open curriculum, I'm not really fond of the no GPA thing, but it's the fact that, there's such freedom in education, generally in US education. Even though your passion is economics, you can do music, you can do comsci and those kind of things.
I see.
And also because I don't want to lie about prestige, but Brown, being an Ivy League, I would say that because I'm a career-oriented person, I feel like it. The representation of an Ivy League and all the prestige would kind of benefit me long term in terms of employment and all those kind of things. So that's also one of the main reasons I chose Brown.
Like, were there any other factors beyond like prestige or like say an Ivy League that maybe like swayed you eventually towards like US education, and like would you recommend that for Malaysians, for example?
Personally, US education is always was endorsed by my dad, and the UK education was endorsed by my mom. Because both of them went. My dad went to the US to Purdue, and my mom went to University of Manchester in UK. So I think as Asians, I would say the parenting aspect and comparison aspect plays a role. Definitely a pressure towards applying as many as you can. That's why I applied to both. If I would have just applied to US because I know for certain I was applying to US, but because of my mom's, she just wants to see where I get into and stuff. I just applied for her sake.
I see. Got it.
So, but also personally, is because, well, I applied. The plan was that I was about to ED Wharton, Huntsman program in UPenn. Unfortunately, I got rejected.
Okay.
And so that was like kind of like a detour. So what happens is, I think psychologically when you apply and get rejected, I felt that I was, oh no, I'm traumatized. I need to get into university, So I applied to a lot after that, 22. And then I applied at ED2, NYU Stern. They put me into NYU Shanghai, which is it was also quite like a dagger to my heart kind of thing. Because I've done a lot of like NYU summer courses, so I thought that would show, I'm committed. But to promote, it's all also a lot influence from my parents, and because obviously they're older, more experienced, and of course I need to also take their advice into consideration.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that. Now, in terms of like the things that you're expecting, right, or the things that you look forward to, are there any specific things that come to mind as you kind of like wait for your days at Brown?
One of the things I'm looking forward to, of course, is those niche events that some universities have, like traditions. They call it traditions.
Traditions, yeah.
Brown, they have a really weird tradition. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. Am I allowed to say it?
Sure, go ahead.
But they have a thing called the Naked Donut Run. So they run around naked and give out donuts. I would like to
meet Emma Watson. Okay.
I'm not a big fan of Emma Watson.
Okay.
Krasinski, maybe.
Krasinski, okay.
Yeah. I'm not too concerned about the academics because, I'm going there to study anyway, right? It's just
side quest can sometimes be greater than the main quest.
Yes, definitely. You complete a lot of side quests.
So many, and like in a hipster school, so many different things to explore. Yeah.
And
for those of you who don't know at the moment, so Brown is typically considered one of the hipster Ivy League schools, where like you were mentioning no GPA, right? Like no GPA, open curriculum. Like you can like study.
Pass and fail.
Yeah, basically anything it is that
not everything is pass and fail. Some of them you can apply for a GPA. Like you can calculate yourself and you can apply for classes that has GPA. Generally, it's a pass and fail environment.
And by the way, it's not like just a pass and fail environment for like snowflakes or flowers. No, this is like, are you snowflake? No, I don't think you're a snowflake. Definitely not. No snowflake can get 100% for IGCSE foreign language Malay. But no, like a school that offers freedom to some of the smartest students in the world, and that's something really to consider. Now, I guess, do you have any tips for the students who have come after you in terms of like, you know, how they should view the world, or like maybe even applying to a top university like this? Because perhaps like a lot of students, right, they might not even consider doing something like that.
I think when you're applying to these kind of universities, you have to have a rough idea about the things that you want to portray in an admissions file or admissions process. My advice is, if you can summarize yourself in 3 to 5 bullet points after reading your admissions essays and your ECAs, make sure that all your activities are kind of like, you need to have a soundbite. There's a book called Soundbite that's really good. I think it kind of shows how having a brand is a good thing. Admission officers would then recognize you easily, right?
See, yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, I was trying to build this brand of, you know, Malaysian who's fluent in Mandarin, English, Malay.
Yeah,
who cares
that's not common at all.
Yeah, and it was that, and also caring about bigger things like US-China relations and finance. So finance, US-China relations, multilingual, right?
Okay.
And also, Odyssey, what do you call it? You have that diversity, which is Malaysian, right? Malaysians.
Quick question then, like, what is interesting to you about US-China relations? Like, why is it something that you're passionate about?
In between those two countries, and especially when you're Malaysia,
Yeah.
you're a middle country between the two, because you're exporting and importing from both countries. And if you can kind of like understand the conflicts and the interests of both sides, you can maximize the welfare of Malaysia.
I see. I guess my last question for you then is there something in particular that you hope to leave as your legacy, or that you hope to contribute to the world?
Well, I don't really have a concrete idea, like a concrete objective, but obviously something to give back to my own country, Malaysia, right? Wherever you go, if you work overseas, you work overseas, you can never forget your own country, right? You can never forget your home country. My
Nationality is something.
nationality is nothing, it's in the
You
blood.
can't travel with. Yeah.
In my opinion, I think whether it be like me building a business, entrepreneurship, or even working for the government, any sort of contribution to the welfare, and also like building a better Malaysia. Better Malaysia is quite vague, but in my opinion, if it's progressive and it's fair, and no more kleptocracy, and no more of those corruptions, and, you know, eradicating the flaws that we have that kind of like deter foreigners to come, you know, they choose Singapore over Malaysia kind of thing. You know, I want them to choose Malaysia over Singapore.
You heard that?
Well, we have 3 major cultures, major races, and I feel like we're not utilizing it well enough for us to beat Singapore, like countries like Singapore, you know.
Do we need to beat them though?
Obviously, I think in the long term we should. I mean, we can't just be...
The gloves have been thrown down.
We have the resources, we have the thing, but it's just, I think it's also about like governing well. Yeah. And the
Like
political...
doing things right.
Yeah, doing
letting
things
the water
right.
rise
Yeah.
to its level.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much, Asif. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, man.